Hello everybody, welcome back. It's Malachi back here with Brotherhood Outdoors. And today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about food plots while I was out here in the woods. I was working, cutting up a bunch of firewood. Like I always say, you gotta work before you play. So came out here to do some work, and my buddy I just watched his video. My buddy from Outdoor Addiction, he just made a great video on late season food plots and necessary food for the deer when they're transitioning from greens off the fields to the tops of, purple top turnips or brassicas, radishes, and then going down to the bulbs when the season gets tough and it's late in the winter, the hard times, and how they transition back and forth. And it's a very important thing to take note on. I don't think the deer food plot part of deer management is overlooked at all. I think it's there. It's definitely there, and everybody knows about deer food plots. Everybody thinks that food plots, though, are the only thing into deer management. I think a lot of people are confused. Now, I know people personally, friends that and family, they are just set on the only thing that gets deer is food. Okay, and that's true, but also very false. There's a lot of things that go into deer management in addition to getting deer to even eat your food. And now here I got some things off of my plot here, and Joshua had the same thing. His were a little bit richer in size, a little bit bigger, as radishes, but this is what I have out here in this little food plot right here, which I had to drive through, by the way, to grab a bunch of firewood, but gotta work. And I had some purple top turnips, some radishes and stuff, and this stuff is like deer candy when it's that time of season. And now these are sad looking radishes right here, turnips or whatever, but that's, it is what it is. But anyways, what I was saying is I don't think food plots are overlooked in the deer world. I think that's actually probably the biggest thing people look to for a solution to wanting to kill more deer, killing bigger deer, and more consistently deer sightings. But there's also a lot that goes into play when it comes to getting deer to even want to utilize your property, your food plots. And I think, and more specifically in daylight, and I think food is a good thing, but the biggest thing would be habitat itself, structure. You got to have bedding, you've got to have proper travel corridors, you've got to have proper boundaries across the property to keep other people from wandering in, just stuff like that, making the deer feel safe on your property. And so there's a lot that goes into it, and it's all good things, but food is definitely a big thing. And like he had said, most of you probably haven't watched this video, but what these deer do is they eat this green stuff on top here first. When this gets the first couple frosts on it, it ripens up. And this was a beautiful looking food plot back in archery season. It was just tall, 2 foot tall, just green, lush, and it was beautiful. But then, obviously with the elements of the winter, it turns into this when the plants die off. But anyways, and then as soon as the winter starts to kick in a little bit, you start to get your snow, and this stuff is just kind of not so nutritious to the deer, not so nutrient filled. They'll move down to the bottom, and this is what these deer are after in the late season. Okay, this is the main meat of the plant, the bulb, so yeah, this is what the deer want. But like I said, food is a huge thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a very important key to harvesting deer, to keeping deer on your farm, that's for sure, or wherever you hunt. But don't overlook habitat. Don't overlook bedding. Don't overlook cover. If you look through back over here, you can see that the property, it's not wide open. But if you go back in this neighbor's woods, that property is so open back up in there. You go in there 20 yards and you would know what I'm talking about. It is just wide open. You can see 100 yards. It depends on what part of the country you're in, part of North America you're in, I guess, for white-tailed deer. But around here, you cannot have that. We do not have a lot of property to spare. We don't have a lot of ground to spare when it comes to wooded areas. We got small patches of woods where I'm at, and if your woods are not thick, if they're not properly placed out and managed for deer, you'll have deer come through, but you're not going to be able to hold a big buck on your property for more than a couple days, and I can promise you that where we are. And so, and then you got over here on our property, everything is thick, 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 and We try to make it that way as much as we can. I do extensive hinge cutting, strategically placed out around the property. I make transition zones, scrape zones, travel corridors. I make, bedding areas. I do all that stuff, and so that's going to be one of your key things to getting deer to even want to enter your food plot in the daylight. So food plot, huge. You got to have them, and that is for sure. Make sure you have food. That's very important. To keep your your does around, to keep your bucks around, and but you got to make sure you have cover, because the deer will not give up safety and security for a food plot, and I'll tell you that right now 100%. So guys, this is a very key thing. You guys don't have to, everybody has their thing, it's got to be clover, it's got to be alfalfa, it's got to be, but never stick to one food either. Before I leave the video, never stick to one type of food unless you only have one food plot, or do half and half in that food plot. Like I do turnips and purple top turnips and radishes, and then all the rest of our property is in clover around some edges, and then we've got alfalfa fields. And so it's kind of like you get a little bit of everything. You got something for all summer, you got the clover for the spring and into the late fall, and then you've got this stuff in the late fall when it starts to get a little bit colder, and then you got this stuff for the winter, and by the time spring hits, this stuff is just starting to get finished up, and then the clover kicks in. So you got to have a few things to really keep your deer around and on your property. Food's a big one, but you got to have it for all year round, not just when it's time to kill, and you got to have cover. So sorry guys for making this video a little bit lengthy, just for that topic, but thank you guys so much for watching, and always remember, Brotherhood Outdoors, once a sportsman, always a sportsman.